You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. This is Force 13 Live. We're currently tracking Tropical Storm John, which is rapidly intensifying towards hurricane status this morning, as well as an area of interest which is pretty much a certainty to become another substantial tropical cyclone in the Western Caribbean, and expected to become a substantial storm into the Gulf of Mexico, with models all on board with a significant hurricane and potential Gulf Coast impacts. Tropical Storm John will be the top story today owing to its proximity to land. It is moving at a measly 3 miles per hour to the north-northeast at present, and hurricane warnings have been issued this morning ahead of the storm, which has intensified further than what the National Hurricane Center were expecting. They're producing a full update in an hour. We'll be there to catch it, as well as whatever happens with the other system. Rumblings are that it will be designated a potential tropical cyclone at the next advisory window in an hour. So we're going to be talking about all of that. My name's Nathan Foy here in the studio, back from vacation here, and we're currently tracking these storms live. As you can see behind me is John, and you can see the cloud tops there, really significant cloud tops on this imagery, mainly on that western and southern side, looking very good indeed. Starting to get those first visible images there as well. So an impressive looking John. Let's see if we can take a look at actually a live camera in Mexico at Huatulco, which is going to be to the east of where the storm is expected to make landfall, we think. And you can see, well, it's buffering quite a bit, but it's looking fairly calm there right now, and still quite a few people out there. I'll have to double check whether this is actually under a hurricane warning, this location, or not. Let's take a look at the cone. And they're actually under that tropical storm warning to the east, near the hurricane warning zone. This was the last update from the intermediate advisory at 6 a.m. Central Standard Time. And of course the next update is in an hour, and significant possibility that it will be declared a hurricane at that juncture. We know from the ATCF update that it will at least be given 70 miles per hour at the next update. Whether they go a little bit further than that is going to be the question of the hour. Well, joining me on this stream today, we'll be here for at least an hour, by the way. We might push to 2. I'm assuming with that potential tropical cyclone, if it gets designated, we'll end the stream pretty quickly, because we'll want to rearrange all our graphics and get everything sorted out for another stream later this evening. But right now we have Charlie, Christian, and Soham with me at this point. John is heading up there, rapidly intensifying and getting towards hurricane status. So, why don't you tell us about your observations of John?
So, how do I say this? In the morning, like over the last few days, we were watching John's on the models. Initially, people were like not very convinced that John would even form in the first place. And then people thought it was basically an artifact of the models, or rather it was like not that important. And then all the other models started showing John one by one, and then the system itself sprung up on GOES 18 imagery. And then what followed was, how do I put this? It's under very light shear, it's under low shear according to ships, and has a high chance of rapid intensification, as we can see on latest frames. And this morning, we had an AMSR2 microwave pass that showed John having consolidated a powerful small core small core with a small eye feature on a microwave, and you can see it on latest infrared imagery frames that you can see the sort of like a warm.
I think we may have lost his signal there, but we are looking at this latest imagery, and on the right hand side, you can clearly see the swirling around of some hot towers, possibly there, around what is clearly an eye starting to appear. We'll see if we can get Soham again in a moment. Let's talk to Charlie right now. I'm assuming you've been tracking this storm and its progression as well.
I have been very briefly, and I was actually quite surprised that it formed so early. As someone was saying, it wasn't really ideally going to form this quickly into a tropical storm.
Well, it's definitely on its way right now, looking at this imagery, no bones about it. It is moving rather slowly as well, which means that we are still only expecting the landfall to be during the daylight hours of tomorrow at this rate. So it is moving dangerously slow, if that's a term, as it obviously has a bigger window in that regard to intensify. Christian, your take on this storm right now?
Well, I haven't been keeping that much of an eye on it. I only just realized it was only named like yesterday. And yeah, again, I haven't even had a proper look at this thing yet. So that's where I am right now. All I can say is that apparently 9L will be designated in the next hour.
Yep, that's what we're hearing.
Yep.
And that is not a surprise at all. We were pretty much expecting that, especially based on the National Hurricane Centre's wording this morning, that they think that they were expecting that they would be getting tropical storm watches and warnings being issued later on. Let's just try and get this imagery back. Here is a look at both of those features here, and let's see if we can switch it to, well, there's that kind of imagery as well. You can see everything going on there with these two systems. With 97L, it's looking very disheveled at the moment, though. Off the eastern side is where all the convection is, in the south. The centre of it, assuming it has one, it certainly looked like a centre earlier, is right at the top end of the tail, not far from the Cayman Islands, and that will be heading gradually westwards and then northwestwards. That is one that really needs to be watched very closely as well, with models going very high on the forecast on this one. We've had one or two false alarms, but I think this is probably going to be a real deal of a hurricane for Florida or the rest of the Gulf Coast.
Someone's back online as well.
So you're mid-flow. Did you want to try and pick up on where you were?
Yeah, so basically my Discord crashed, and what I was trying to say is that at what point was I cut off?
I could not remember.
You might as well start from the beginning, mate.
Yeah.
Why don't you
So basically,
rephrase?
yeah, I'll briefly summarize. People were not expecting this storm to form at all. When it first appeared on the GFS, we thought it was one of the artifacts on the GFS. In other words, a bias. We all thought that it was just another system, just one of those phantom systems that the GFS likes to spin up. And then over time, on satellite imagery, we started noticing the system form. And on the other end, other models also began forming the system as well. So that meant that the system was actually true. It had some truth to it. And then I think 2 or 3 days back, the system began to develop banding. A system emerged in the ITCZ and developed overall banding. And that's when we knew that the system was the real deal. So we checked the forecasts, and turns out it had a very good environment ahead of it on the way to landfall. And now this morning, as the system was designated, the system developed a microwave core, an inner core, an eye wall with an eye feature. and we can see this now getting reflected in the infrared imagery with with a warm spot on infrared surrounded by cold cloud tubes firing all around uniformly.
So two comments here. Wind shear is staying very low throughout, but also there's this other system that's been banded around off to its left-hand side, and you see some of it trying to spin up there. A strong John, does that have any bearing on the other system?
Yeah, I'm not too sure, but I think a strong John would shear that system out. As you can see on the overall imagery, that system is already getting sheared from the east, and I think John would just further cause it, and John would just cause it further issues. You can see the National Hurricane Center had an AOI out of it, and an AOI has decreased in chances now.
Oh, it has?
I believe so. I haven't double checked the chances though.
All right. Once again, you can see a live view here, looking at some visible imagery as we enter the day, and those two systems either side of Central America, and John looking pretty good. There's the view down there in Oaxaca as well. You can see it's getting a little bit overcast by the looks of things, and that will be to do with John's outer bands. This particular location is in an area of tropical storm warnings, not too far from the hurricane warning zone. I'd estimate something like 30 kilometers from the hurricane warning. If you've just joined us, a little while ago they issued hurricane warnings for the first time for the coast of Mexico, and that is in effect for the following locations. It is Punta Maldonado to Bahia de Huatulco, which is right next to where that camera was, and the tropical storm warning for east of Bahia de Huatulco to Salina Cruz out east there. In the Gulf of
one more thing.
Yep.
Ethan just came in with the news that we will see potential tropical cyclone 09L at 15Z.
I already covered that one, but yes.
That was mentioned, I think, when you were crashed out. That is, from what we're hearing, going to be happening, and no real surprise there. Let's actually just go and show you the other viewpoint from the National Hurricane Center. This was their last tropical weather outlook this morning. That was at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, and you can see there they were giving it 80% at that point, and 20% for that other area of interest out there in the Eastern Atlantic. This is just a 2-day outlook. They are giving a high chance, I think, for that Atlantic. Yep, 70% out near Cape Verde, heading out towards the west, and 90% for this one that we're watching. Could be PTC 9 in just a sec. It doesn't mean that it's formed yet, but I would suggest, looking at models, it is pretty much a dead certainty that we will be going for a tropical storm forming soon. And if you missed it, there's also key messages here, and I'm sort of blocking the path a little bit. Let me see if I can. I'm still blocking the path. Oh well. I'll just read this out. Interest in the northwestern Caribbean, Yucatan Peninsula, and western Cuba should closely monitor the progress of the system. Watches or warnings could be required later today. This was issued at 1 a.m. The system forecast to strengthen whilst moving northward over the Gulf of Mexico, bringing a potential for impacts from storm surge, heavy rainfall, and strong winds to portions of the northern and northeastern Gulf Coast, including the Florida Panhandle and portions of the Florida West Coast later this week. Now, it's too soon to specify the exact location and magnitude of these impacts. Residents in these areas, though, should monitor the latest forecast updates and ensure they have a hurricane plan in place. Absolutely, 100% with this one. It is expected to become a significant storm, and we will show you some of that on the models later on in the hour. Well, let's see if we can take some comments and questions right now. Then start your message with Force 13 all in text. CVK says, could John become a semi-Otis? Like it will explosively intensify like Otis, but nowhere near as strong as Otis. Well, Ethan pointed out earlier that it has twice as long as Otis to intensify, so by that logic it will get to 320 miles per hour.
Don't say that. No, don't encourage them.
I
You
should
know,
point
it's
out
it's
that Otis is not the first storm to explode like this. We've had cases in the past of far east, west, eastern Pacific storms exploding like this. I think a better analog for the time being is Max of 2017.
ah,
If you know that storm,
yep, we remember
yeah,
Max.
it exploded out of nowhere for high-end Category 1 as it made landfall in a similar region.
It was quite close by, yes. I'm just grabbing some more stuff here, just a sec. We want to show models like the multi-model diagnostic pattern here, and this is what it's currently showing. So the big takeaway here is what's on the top right panel there, and that's the wind shear. Bearing in mind that anything beyond 2 days is going to be pretty inconsequential regarding the storm. So if you just look out to the 25th, you can see there that wind shear almost entirely remains under 15 knots, and for most of it there under 10 knots. And so it's looking very good from that perspective. Sea surface temperatures looking good as well. 28 degrees generally, maybe higher, pushing 30. And relative humidity also good in the area. You'll also notice the bottom left there, the tracks are all over the place. Well, some models are latching on to the other low pressure system in the area, I think, and trying to give John an extra life, but I'm pretty sure that will be a different system, and that John will be gone before we get to even the later part of this week.
John's not the cat. That's Garfield.
No. Thank you for that, Christian. Excellent. Well, we're
He only
looking
gets
at...
one life.
Yes, indeed. Here's the two systems on the wide shot. Let's see if we can take a look at some other options right now, other kinds of imagery. Here's some true color, looking at that whole area right now as well. And once again, certainly a lot going on with John. Let's get some mesoscale imagery and get a real close-up on it. And it's going to be from GOES 18, I'm pretty sure. Here's some imagery now. There it is. So very much up to the minute imagery here. This imagery is taken once every minute. So 1 minute imagery of John continuing to push slowly northwards. Now the northern side of it there looks relatively bare compared to the rest of it, but a significant band detached somewhat off to the northeast there over land already will certainly be providing some substantial rainfall. Now what we have been looking at on models, and we'll look at it again shortly, is just how much rain these storms are going to produce, whether it's just John or whether it's whatever comes afterwards or more disorganized rainfall. There's been a wide part of Oaxaca in particular, guys, indicating rainfall amounts of, in some areas, over 1,500 millimeters in the next 7 days.
That's quite a lot. How many points would that count as on Ticos?
It's near the top.
Blimey. That's like, like 16 points? 18?
I can't remember, but it's obviously a very high amount of rain. I don't know how much of it is going to be just from John and how much of it will be from whatever might happen behind it. I'm going to actually try and find out the answer to that in real time here. And it looks like... it looks to me as though most of it will be from John, but it's certainly looking like it's going to be a very wet period here in south and eastern Mexico. As for that Atlantic system, at the moment it's indicating that it's not going to be a massive rainmaker in the United States. It is showing not that many places getting above 6 inches, which is a bit of a surprise if we're going to get a strong hurricane like what most models are already saying. Higher amounts up and above 8 inches, maybe 10 in parts of Cuba, and possibly the Cayman Islands. They could be getting very high amounts of rain over the next few days from the formative stages of that new potential tropical cyclone. which we'll get more updates on towards the end of the hour. Just looking through, oh, here it is, right now actually. Here's some more imagery. This is the new potential tropical cyclone that we're expecting to get designated at the hour. Does it have a circulation? It's a question mark there. It's trying to do it. You can see that, some rotation around. I would suggest it probably doesn't yet. But certainly you can see where it is probably going to be, and that's just south of Grand Cayman right now. The weather's probably not too bad over there at the moment, maybe a little bit of rainfall nearby, but if the storm really gets going quickly, then obviously conditions will deteriorate. Here's another view from the infrared channel, showing the Cayman Islands there on those latest frames again, and very little convection in the immediate vicinity of the system. But let's go back to the latest imagery of John, and obviously a substantial hurricane impact possible as this storm continues to rapidly develop. I'll open the floor to the team here. Anyone have any further comments on the storm as we're looking at it right now?
Well, I've posted a graphic of the next expected satellite pass times over John. So
Okay.
I could comment on that, and I'm also in the process of generating, or rather coding, the same for the potential tropical cyclone. In fact, it's posted now.
Walk us through these that you've posted then. Here we are.
Well, first one is the expected pass time. So basically, what this graphic shows is the black cross is the center for is the current center of John as of the latest update statement. And I've color coded these satellite lines as I've coded them. They refer to they refer to each individual satellites on the bottom. So, for example, Terra. Terra is the residential polar pass satellite that we often use for like infrared imagery, polar imagery. Metop B we use for ASCAT. It's the ASCAT satellite. NOAA 20, 19, and 18 all contain ATMS, like that. And if you were to switch to the potential tropical cyclone 9 graphic, you can see the upcoming passes. Aqua, you know Aqua Modus. Aqua Modus comes from that satellite. Then Metop B, I already explained. Metop C for ASCAT C. NOAA 21 and 19 for the other ATMS satellites. And Suomi NPP is for VIIRS, which is another polar pass satellite. So basically, this graphic will show us the upcoming microwave passes or ASCAT passes for a particular system in the next 6 hours from the time of generation of the plot, and within 700 kilometers from the center.
Now, whilst we're pretty sure that they were going to designate it, it has been confirmed by the National Hurricane Center. This will be potential tropical cyclone 9. And we'll look forward to see what they've got on their forecast. I would be very surprised if they don't forecast a hurricane, and I may be inclined to think they might forecast a major hurricane out of this at their first advisory, but we will find out together probably in the next 15 to 20 minutes.
I hope not, but it is possible.
Yeah.
So John right now moving at a pretty paltry 3 miles per hour. That's pretty slow, and that is only going to help it strengthen, isn't it?
Unfortunately so.
I'm just going to see if we can get some more imagery that we can look at now. Trying to get some... this might do it. Well, you can see a little bit of John on this imagery right down the bottom of the screen. I suppose you could use this more for its land impacts in Mexico there. You can see various parts of the coast are being hit with some significant cloud tops there, which are obviously getting closer. If I was to just do a quick check here for the distance from land, because obviously it is starting to get closer. As we were preparing for today's stream, it was at about 161 kilometers from Laguna de Chacahua, and right now I'm just trying to get a read on this, but I don't have the latest here. I'll find out that in just a moment. In the meantime, let's cut back to some more current imagery here. And clearly a storm that is well on its way to intensifying. Okay, I think I've got some a good spot on this now. So latest distance from Laguna de Chacahua, it's 148 kilometers now. Puerto Escondido, 174. Puerto Angel to the east, 209. If you're looking out further west to places like Maquilia, 219, Acapulco 303, Oaxaca City 303 as well, Salina Cruz 356. So those are all distances from the center of John right now. Its wind field isn't particularly large, or wasn't at their last update. I imagine it will have grown at least a little bit, although the northern side does look like it's a little bit on the slender side. Southern side certainly has a lot more in terms of those cloud tops. Let's see if we got some more questions here. There's pre-naming going on already. TJ Flax says thoughts on the strength potential of what is PDC 9. That is something that was bound to come up here in the discussion. So what do we think, everyone? And we'll probably look at the models after this to see what they think.
Whatever you do, don't look at the hurricane models.
Are you saying that as a professional or as a observer?
As an observer, as a professional, I would also say that as a professional, because I do not use hurricane models on non-tropical cyclones until and unless recon data has been fed into them.
That's a good point. And does it give you any hope looking at its current structure? And this is 9L we're talking about, by the way, because it doesn't exactly look great at the minute.
No.
Things tend to change very quickly, even if they don't look great right now. So what I'm thinking is, I would rather wait until it actually forms into a tropical cyclone, because once that happens, we'll have a very good idea, or at least a much better idea of what exactly is the scenario ahead. Because otherwise, what you get is models just going all over the place on ensembles, or have each system having a different environmental configuration. But what happens once the storm actually forms, all of the models will initialize at the same proper structure. So we will have a much better much better idea by that point. So I'd rather bide my time and wait for the system to completely form.
Well, there's a look at it right now, and certainly has the potential there to develop a tight core if it manages to pull it off there with some deep convection.
I must say, I agree. I must say, can you look at the upper level cirrus clouds to the north of the overall convection? You can see it just expanding outwards. That's usually not a good sign for the people, because that means the storm has very good upper level outflow. So if this storm manages to establish itself, its rapid intensification potential is very much there.
All right. Let's go back to a live camera at Huatulco, which is on the edge of the hurricane warning, the eastern side in Mexico, just to show you how things are looking there. And you can see things are still looking quite calm, although it is looking like it's overcast. You can see that the ocean really does look very calm. Probably raining there, actually, though, looking at it. And still a couple of people out there, too, which I find quite interesting and staggering. But there we go. All right, let's take a look at the GFS model then and see what it has for this scenario, and then we'll take a look at the other ones with... Okay, let's take a look first. Well, there's John on the left-hand side. Interestingly, the GFS initializes John this time around. This was still the 6E run, I think. Initialized it at 63 miles per hour, which is interesting. Actually ahead of the National Hurricane Center there, and then doesn't strengthen it much more though, and then rapidly shrivels up as it moves inland. It's probably going to be stronger than that. However, when you look at that GFS there, that is actually the same system. It does curve back towards the west and then ends up becoming this next storm that develops and hits this exactly the same area with a massive band off to its south side. So I don't know. So maybe it will be a complex situation here. But that's
At this point, the problem with the system is that it's actually running ahead of every model. So at this point, we are running a little bit blind here. Apart from ships, which is the only the SHIPS ships model,
yeah.
no other model has actually accurately like gauged the system yet. I believe we have Recon flying into John tomorrow as well. I have to check.
All right.
I will double check what the time is.
They're going to be busy. This is the Atlantic system. Then here it comes, and very large at first, trying to get itself together. It does get sorted by the time it leaves the Cayman Islands through the Yucatan Channel, becomes a hurricane, Category 1, Category 2, and massive intensification there, northwest of Cuba, and rapidly intensifies into a Category 4 there, approaching Tampa Bay, and passing just north of there, and eventually hitting once again the Bend region of Florida, very close to Cedar Key for the landfall there. And what is that intensity? At that point there, it's 121 miles per hour. GFS usually underestimates 2, so that is probably a Category 4 right there. So that's not very pleasant. It continues through the United States there, off towards the north, stays inland after that, and then eventually dies off. Look out east. GFS has actually mellowed on its forecast for that other system in the Eastern Atlantic. In other models in the past, it had been going for sort of borderline, at least hurricane status actually, probably Category 2. Now it's only a tropical storm, and another system behind it there trying to get itself going too. So we'll have to keep watching that one. So that's what the GFS has to say on this. Let's cross over and take a look at what some of the other models are saying. And I will be there in just a second. So here it is. This is the European model, the ECMWF. You can see John there stalling off the coast for a long time. Stays stalling off the coast into Wednesday, and then just actually dies on the coast there by the looks of things. So that's even more interesting. So from there it continues to move very slowly, so slowly that it barely gets there at all. Then the Atlantic system, there it is, strengthening into the Gulf of Mexico, once again strengthening further. That's probably a Category 1 landfall in Florida there along the Bend region again. So you know, a bit of a difference, contrast there, but once again, European model can also vastly underestimate. Let's check the CMC just for the fun of it. Well, it's quicker for John. There's landfall there. It's probably about midnight heading into Tuesday morning, and you can't see that actually on the screen. There it is. And then there's 9L moving up into the Gulf of Mexico, really strengthening, probably a Category 2 there, much closer to Apalachicola at that time. And then moving inland, actually swivels off towards the west there, over the Mississippi region, and then Mississippi Valley region, and then turning back east. Very odd track if that happened. And then some more stuff going on later. The Icon model, let's take a look at John. You just see it on the very left hand side. It just about reaches land. It will be Tuesday early morning, and actually no, it doesn't. It doesn't make landfall. It stalls off the coast, and then it does a loop-the-loop and turns east, and then makes landfall closer to Salina Cruz, and then another storm behind it. And then the Atlantic storm. It's crazy. That as well, another strong storm, Category 2 at least by the looks of that one, into the Bend area, and then continuing northwards, maybe northwesterly a little bit. Okay, the dreaded hurricane models. Let's take a look at still Invest 97L on this. Look at that. Oh, that's not current. Hold on a minute. What is this? It looks like we've skipped through. Okay, this is current. There it goes, passing the Cayman Islands, 995 millibars by this evening. I don't know if that will happen, but that's something to, you know, a measuring stick. And by early hours tomorrow morning into the 980s, by the time it gets, look at that, late Tuesday night, borderline Category 3, passing through the Yucatan Channel just off the western tip of Cuba. And there it goes into the 920s. 932 millibars near landfall there. Again, a very similar location, but on approach there, it's 927, 926 millibars at peak. That could well be a Category 5. And then continuing inland, and then once again turning left as it continues northwards there after landfall. Looks like a few models are picking up on that possibility. Do we still have HMON these days? Yes, we've got that running too. Once again there, 990 millibars by sunset this evening. That's another one really to measure this by. If it manages to do that, then we're really on the road to something big. And then after that, this one turns more westerly. Again, very strong into the 920s, 928 there, 930 at landfall. Again, the same location there. 930 millibars at landfall. Powerful Category 4 most likely. And then this time it sort of stalls out over Tennessee. Okay, and the HAFS A model, looking at this again, and another one calling for pretty rapid strengthening, although not quite as much actually, 993 by the time we get to early hours of tomorrow morning. And then into 980s, 970s, very close to Cancun, and then continuing northerly, starts to turn, look at that, strengthening all the way, 924 peak there. Look at that structure, that is really impressive, probably a Category 5 right there, and then slamming into the coast of Florida. Again, this one's a little bit further west, which is probably bad news. It's much closer to Tallahassee, and then moving inland, weakens very quickly actually, and then stalls out again sort of near the Memphis area. So a lot of strong model scenarios that we're looking at there on these models. Really impressive to see, and we'll get the National Hurricane Center's take on it pretty shortly as well. But what did we think of what we just saw there, guys?
I don't want to deal with it.
Speechless. I don't want to deal with it. Well, yeah, it's not great. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens to it, but we'll get an idea from that National Hurricane Center's update fairly soon. We'll also have an update on John shortly as well. We'll see what the National Hurricane Center have to say about that. Will they pull the trigger and go with hurricane status already? I think there's a reasonable chance that they could do that as we look at this satellite imagery once again. Really impressive views here of an eye clearly forming. Not quite as nice looking on the infrared, but still very much there. But visible, looking mighty good there too. It looks like a hurricane to me. Alright, whilst we continue to wait then, let's see if we can take some more comments right now. Oh, people want us to look at the HAFS-B model. I'm sure that's calling for some crazy stuff as well. I didn't look at that because sometimes it doesn't work so well, but I will have a quick look behind the scenes here. Okay, that's got the strongest one then. Let's just have a look at this one. So let's say that this is probably the worst of the worst case scenarios. Let's just see how quickly it develops though. And again, this is going to be another measuring stick for that worst case scenario. Now look at this. That is 993 millibars and 65 miles per hour in 6 hours. That seems far-fetched. So if it doesn't do that, then this model is not really grasping. Look how tiny it is. It's really tiny on the HEFSB model. That's obviously helped it there. And that's part of the reason why it's getting so strong on this particular run. Really rapid intensification, blasting through into Category 5 status. Minimum pressure 904 millibars there. So that's extremely powerful. In terms of strength alone, obviously that's comparable to Katrina in that location, but much smaller. And then continuing northeastwards, 917 millibars at landfall, that's Michael's intensity. A little bit further east, smaller, and then weakening very quickly after landfall. That is the very worst case scenario, though, and I suspect that it is suspect that it's not going to verify like that. It asks a very lot of it in just the next 6 hours if it's going to pull off something like that.
We're also getting
Ethan just
reports that
came in with news that Ethan just came in with news that recon into potential tropical cyclone 9 is now live.
Okay.
I'll start
yep.
putting it up.
And in addition, the NHC have cancelled recon into John
No.
for tomorrow.
Why?
Incredible job.
That's awful. Now, you guys are saying it's live. People might think that they're already in the storm, but no, they've just taken off. So
taken off.
We're not going to get news from them for a fair while. So let's see if we can, just waiting for the update from the National Hurricane Center here. We don't have it yet. So we're waiting for two updates. We've got John and we've got obviously the new potential tropical cyclone 9. What we're looking at on this imagery though currently is John, and I think we're joined by Jack now as well. I don't think we've heard from you yet, so why don't you tell us what your thoughts are on John right now?
Hello. Well, to be fair, I haven't looked at the storm much, to be fair. I've just come out of school right now. I did have a look at it in school though, and sorry, that was a
looking powerful.
Yeah, well, it was. This was like, bear in mind, 9 in the morning, so 8Z.
Yeah, it wasn't looking so good back then, but it's really changed a lot.
I was the first to remark, "Oh, John looks like it's going to go boom," and that's all I said. And that's all I saw of it. So I will have a look at the storm as soon as I get it. Bring what I think of the situation.
Okay, Jack sounds like he's going on a run or something there. Let's see if we can talk to some, get some more comments right now, actually. People are wondering where I've been. We've been on a vacation here. Force 13 HQ has been shut. I was away from the 9th until the 21st, and it's been slow to return here, but we are back. We've been fighting with our web server today. We can't get... We had an automated stream ready to go, but it's currently not working on the server side, and I have no idea why. I have no idea if it can even be rectified, so we're going to have to see what comes of that. However, it is looking very likely that we will be doing another live event later this evening at a more common time that we normally do. Possibly the Tropical Weather Bulletin hour. So we'll have much more to talk about at that point, I'm sure. But right now we've got a lot of updates, some big news here that's likely to come out shortly. Of course, we'll have the full advisory, first advisory from the National Hurricane Center on the potential tropical cyclone 9. Tropical Storm John could be about to become a hurricane officially. It is slowly drawing closer to the coast of Oaxaca, currently at about 148 kilometers away from land at the latest update. And we are still waiting for some of that to arrive. So let's show you what the cones looked like before. That was the intermediate advisory for John. They gave it 65 miles per hour. That was at 6 a.m. and that cone will change at the next advisory. The latest that they had it was, and again you can see just how it's stalling as it reaches land even further there. So it's not, it's not a guarantee that it will actually manage to reach land, at least immediately. Some of the models have been saying, it could stall off the coast and turn east. It could stall off the coast and turn west. So the models are saying all kind of different things. It could stall and completely blow itself out before making landfall, but it could get close enough to deliver hurricane force winds. That's certainly a possibility. It is already relatively close to land, 148 kilometers. That's roughly about 90 miles, just over 90 miles. So the wind field doesn't have to increase very much for storm conditions to start reaching the coast soon. But on that cone, you can see that the estimated arrival there was about noon or early afternoon Tuesday. And then the following 12 hours, it barely moved at all on that forecast. So the warning areas that were issued earlier, they issued a hurricane warning at 6 a.m. For Punta Maldonado to Bahia de Huatulco, and a tropical storm warning for east of Bahia de Huatulco to Salina Cruz. I expect that there'll be no changes to those warnings. We are expecting that there will be warnings issued for potential tropical cyclone 9 when we get the update, and we are expecting that very soon indeed. And I'm just trying to see if I can go and grab some of that stuff as soon as possible. But at the moment, we are just waiting to see what they do with all of that. And of course, I suppose there's a little bit of a time, guys, to talk about what I've actually missed whilst I've been away. And the truthful answer really wasn't all that much apart from Francine. You want to talk a little bit about what we've had in the last 2 weeks?
Not much. It's actually amazing how practically abysmal worldwide tropics have been for this September. After like one very strong storm in Yagi, we had two mid-range category 2s in Bebinka and Francine, and then one storm in Gordon. Gordon was supposed to become stronger in the subtropics.
Yes.
And then it just killed itself.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I expected much bigger things from Gordon.
And then we had Pulasan become 65 knots as a monsoonal depression on ATCF. Thankfully, that was downgraded to 55 knots, but it was still funny in real time.
Oh, the update's out on John. It is still a tropical storm, 70 miles per hour. They are expecting a peak of 105 miles per hour now, and they expect that to be at landfall as well. So the breaking news from the National Hurricane Center is that they are expecting a Category 2 landfall, and they're currently saying now that it's moving north 0 degrees at 3 knots. So this might be a difficult one to pinpoint here for a landfall location. It's getting quite close and it's strengthening. Could that be a sign that it's going to move further towards the west? It was 25 degrees bearing at the last update. It's now 0. Reactions to that?
What the heck?
First of all, peak forecast is fine. Initial forecast is not good.
What was that?
Initial intensity is not good.
Well, maybe. It's probably stronger than that. They've given 70 miles per hour, pressure of 992. They're saying that John is rapidly strengthening as it moves close to the coast of southern Mexico, damaging hurricane-force winds, a dangerous storm surge, and life-threatening flash flooding expected in portions of southern Mexico. This is breaking news. No changes with the advisory, with the warnings, that is, as I was alluding to. They're saying that rapid strengthening...
What? Sorry. I'm going to have to cut you off. The discussion for John says there are no signs of an eye showing up yet on infrared or visible imagery.
Okay, guys. Satellite images show that John... Let me just zoom in on... Let's just zoom in on John's eye as we talk about this. Satellite images show... This is the National Hurricane Center discussion. I'll read it word for word. Shows that John has been strengthening quickly. A large area of cold cloud tops between -70 and -85 is present over the cyclone with tight curve bands wrapping around the center. Latest subjective Dvorak intensity estimates are 3.5 from TAFB and 3.0 from SAB. Objective analysis ranging between 57 and 76 knots. AMSR 2. Inner core has become much better defined, showing a small eye-like feature on microwave imagery, although there's no signs of an eye showing up yet in infrared or visible images. Until you would take the blindfold off, of course. The SSMIS pass showed a similar structure, the AMSR2 pass, based on the above data and imagery. The emission intensity is 60 knots. Extremely warm ocean temperatures, light wind shear, and moist low to mid-level troposphere as it approaches the coast of Mexico. Limited amount of additional strengthening on the models. Statistical models, though, are still going up at the high end. And they're saying, given that the system was already intensified by 30 knots in the past 18 hours, and the ships is showing a greater than an 85% chance of another 30 knot increase in the next 24 hours, they're now going for, obviously, that 90 knot peak. And of course, they say it is possible that John could peak even higher than shown between a 24 hours forecast point and when it's forecast to move inland in 36 hours. Obviously, to watch it very closely. But it's moved northwards. Very weak steering currents. And the primary steering mechanism is likely the southwesterly monsoonal flow that the cyclone is embedded in. The forecast has been shifted west. So we're going to take a look at what that new forecast cone says as soon as they get that updated. There it is. They already have updated it. So there it is. Hurricane expected there. Category 2 at that second and third hurricane dot. And then moving inland, it weakens substantially. But the biggest surprise there is that apparently they can't see an eye. Which I think, I don't even know what to say about that. There is clearly an eye there. We've seen it time and time again with thousands of storms. It's clearly an eye.
I think I'm not sure. Actually, I don't have words to describe what's going on here.
It's not just that. We've had the microwave passes as well. They're clearly showing this.
Yeah, but like no signs of an eye. I'm trying to make sense of what they're thinking here.
I don't know. I don't think you can really even say that it's like that they wrote this up like an hour ago, because it was still looking decent back then.
Even an hour ago, we had. Even an hour ago, when the stream started, you could clearly see a warm spot appearing on infrared imagery.
Oh yeah, we're looking at it right now. For a lot of this, more than an hour ago. But fascinating discussion there. I have no idea where we go from there. But they can't see an eye, but it clearly appears as though there is an eye. Well, we're still waiting for the update on 9L. We don't have it yet, but we're still waiting on that. Feel free to send in your questions if you've got anything you want to ask us right now about these storms, whilst we've got maybe a couple of minutes here before we get the update. But as of right now, we are just staring at John here. It certainly has the potential to be a substantial hurricane. Quite a few Johns lately have been rather underwhelming. But this one certainly could have a significant impact potential. But absolutely, and that's before you get to how they've not declared it a hurricane either. I mean, that is also a surprise. But I reckon the main reason they did that so was from the objective T numbers.
The objective T numbers, I checked, SAB had T 3.0 and TAFB had T 3.5. I mean, sure, you can use Dirac numbers, but it's still not. I mean, you are saying it doesn't have an eye on visible infrared imagery. It's not having an eye on visible infrared imagery is not that relevant here.
So they're really doing John bad, aren't they? I mean, they've gone low with the intensity. They denied an eye, and they've cancelled recon, right?
I'm
Oh,
actually
yeah,
not
that
sure
is
of the cancel and
absolutely
recon part. I double checked the plan of the day. They
Go
do
on.
have one
Oh,
recon
they do.
scheduled for tomorrow at 17:30 UTC. I don't know what that is in a Pacific Standard Time.
That would be very close to landfall.
Yeah, so basically it's another Dolores from 2021, if anybody remembers that storm.
And that's just for takeoff, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just for takeoff. That doesn't take into account the amount of hours needed to fly to the area where John is.
Oh, hold on though. I'm just looking at new cone. They actually have delayed the landfall a little bit on that update. They're now going for around 6 p.m. Tuesday. It's going to be a no doubt, very difficult one to forecast. Super weak steering currents. Difficult to forecast this track and when the landfall will occur, even if there will be one. Fascinating to watch.
Landfall to occur because of how I expect landfall to occur because of how past systems in the area have behaved. They tend to be steered towards land. Like I don't expect the solutions where it just curves like how Gamey did over Taiwan.
There have been
I
some
don't expect
notable
that to happen.
exceptions, though. I can't remember them now, but there have been some.
I'm guessing you are thinking of Olaf of '97 because that one also did something similar.
It could be some exceptions, but sure, most storms go on and run straight into land. Hi, Jack.
Hello, I'm going to have a look at the storm now.
Yeah, let us know what you think. Can you see an eye in there?
Absolutely.
Ah,
That's an eye.
yeah, that's what I
Not
thought.
very well defined eye, but an eye.
And still waiting for the update on PTC 9 here. We don't have it yet. We're really
Microwave
running right
wasn't
up to the hour on this update. Usually they're a little bit early, but we're going to hold the line and wait and see when that update comes out, and we'll give you everything you need to know when it drops. Let's see.
The NHD does not like John.
I don't think we actually got any further questions there, but feel free to send them in. Start your message with Force 13 all in text, just whilst we're waiting for this update, but it should be out any time. Question now on when the next tropical weather bulletin will be. I don't know whether it will be advertised as a tropical weather bulletin, but we are doing another update live tonight. But right now we're just waiting on this update. Just about to reach 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and that's when we will get the update on this PTC. There it is, the new potential tropical cyclone 9. Let's go to raw visible imagery here so that we can take a proper look at it. And let's go to I think that one shows the lower levels a little bit better. As you can see, very sloppy right now. But if that convection stays up near that where the center is, perhaps there could be an opportunity for it to establish a very tight core and maybe really get going. But those people who are looking at the HAFS-B model, which forecasts 904 millibars, that is based on the assumption that it will be 65 miles per hour by the next full advisory, and I don't think that will happen somehow. But certainly serious potential for strengthening. Okay, we've got the update, I think. Yep, they are giving it 30 miles per hour, pressure 1004 millibars. They are expecting a 110 mile per hour hurricane, so nearly a category 3 and possibly some margin for, suggesting that it could actually reach category 3 status there. So they are forecasting a high-end category 2. This is more breaking news right now. The formation of potential tropical cyclone 9, expecting a category 2, and they're expecting it to reach 110 miles per hour at 27.1 north, 85.1 west, and that puts it about 150 miles west-southwest of Tampa. And then after that, it's a 24-hour gap to 34 north and 83 west, so very quick as it moves into land. And again, that's probably around the Bend area. It puts it over Georgia and down to 40 miles per hour by that point. So really interesting update there. They're expecting a high in Category 2, maybe stronger. There's the latest full advisory. They've issued a hurricane watch for Cabo Catoche to Tulum, Mexico, and for the Cuban province of Pinar del Rio. A tropical storm warning for Rio de Gatos to Tulum, Mexico, and the Cuban provinces of Artemisa and Pinar del Rio, and the Isle of Youth. So no warnings issued for the United States yet, but they have issued warnings there for Cuba and Mexico. So that is the latest on this disturbance. Let's see, anything interesting there? 90% chance. Moving very quickly into the US Gulf Coast. Rainfall accumulations 4 to 8 inches over western Cuba and the Cayman Islands, isolated totals around 12 inches. Yucatan 2 to 4 inches with isolated totals of 6. Risk of flash and urban flooding and minor river flooding. Heavy rainfall was spread to southeast United States starting on Wednesday, continuing through Friday, bringing a risk of flash flooding and river flooding. Storm surge 2 to 4 feet possible along the southern coast of Pinar del Rio and the Isle of Youth. Hurricane conditions possible in the watch areas early Wednesday. East coast of Yucatan as well, 2 to 4 feet of storm surge as well. So there we are with the latest on PTC 9. Here we go, the forecast discussion then. I know I'm doing a lot of talking right now, but let's go and load up the latest imagery of the system whilst we talk about this forecast discussion. So a broad area of low pressure over the northwestern Caribbean Sea continues to produce disorganized showers and thunderstorms, while some mid-level rotation is evident in visible satellite images. We've been pointing that out. Surface observations and visible imagery suggest that the low-level circulation remains broad and farther to the southwest. Nonetheless, the system has a high chance of formation during the next day or two, likely to bring tropical storm conditions to land areas in the next 36 to 48 hours. Initial motion is quite uncertain given the current lack of organisation, but the best estimate is northward about 5 knots. Gradual turn towards the northwest expected during the next day or so, with the centre passing through the Yucatan Channel and into the southern Gulf. Thereafter, the system is forecast to accelerate northward across the eastern Gulf of Mexico within the flow between a digging deep layer trough over the central United States and a ridge over the western Atlantic. This motion should bring the centre of the system towards the northeastern Gulf Coast on Thursday. Excuse me. The track guidance agrees reasonably well on this scenario, and the initial forecast lies near the simple and corrected consensus aids. And because it lacks a well-defined centre, the track uncertainty is larger and future track adjustments may be required. And given the large size of tropical storm force wind field and fast forward speed that is forecast, storm surge wind and rainfall impacts will likely extend well away from the centre, particularly to the east of the system. So, it is currently broad and not well organised, but the models suggest a more well-defined centre should develop during the next day or so. Once the system becomes better organised, develops an inner core, the environmental and oceanic conditions appear favourable for significant strengthening. In fact, the DTOP statistical guidance shows, get this Soham, a 95% chance of a 65 knot increase in the next 72 hours. Wow. And the hurricane regional models highlight the potential for strengthening to major hurricane intensity. Absolutely. So 95 knot intensity in 72 hours. They reckon that forecast is aggressive, but they say it lies near or slightly below the consensus aids and future adjustments may be necessary. Recon on their way. Warnings, watches and warnings have been issued for Cuba and Mexico. So we're just waiting for the cone to appear, and we do have it. Is that what you were going to say?
Yeah, and it's been a while since I've seen these high percentage chances.
Yeah.
I think the last time I saw these very high chances was with Goni in 2020.
Here's the
I think that
first
was a
cone.
similar value. Those had similar values.
The first cone on PTC 9 there. That 8 a.m. Thursday point, right at the end of the 3-day cone. That is the 95 knot area. That's high-end category 2 right there. Could be a major. Weakening, moving very quickly into land. Could still be near its peak at landfall. And then eventually shifting northwestwards later on in that forecast. So it could be heading... As a matter of fact, I'm sure Ethan will pop up in a moment and say, hey, that 5-day position is near my house, which it is, in southwestern Indiana. Not too far from his house. But in the meantime, certainly strengthening on the cards there. And I think through the Yucatan Channel, that will give it the best chance right there of rapid intensification. So there it is. I'll just wait for them to paint the warnings. I don't know if they're going to. Oh, we've got the experimental cone. They haven't actually put the warnings on there yet, but there are hurricane watches and tropical storm warnings. Basically, the sides of the cone there that are touching Cuba and Mexico, but then a little bit further than that as well. But no warnings in the US. It is still over 3 days away, but definitely this is what we're watching out for here, and we've got to watch it very closely. Francine may have been a bit of a pretender compared to what this one might end up being. Could be a powerful hurricane. Sorry?
I'm looking at the GFS forecast model, and they've got like 2 majors peaking in the mid-Atlantic, just way out.
Yeah.
That was not there 6 hours ago. It wasn't even there 6 hours ago.
That's in the super long range, though, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. But that's the latest news there. Breaking news here that potential tropical cyclone 9 has formed. Is expected to become a borderline major hurricane, and the other breaking news was John, which is expected to become a also strong category 2 there, expecting 105 mile per hour winds before making landfall in Oaxaca. Recon on their way, but we're going to go away now, and we'll end up doing another live update tonight, probably at the Tropical Weather Bulletin window, which is at 8 p.m. Eastern, but we'll probably go an hour earlier so that we can grab the new updates when they come out. So I think, don't quote me on this, but we'll put it out on social media when we know. We will probably be live at 7 p.m. Eastern for the next part of our coverage, and we'll probably run for 2 hours. So that's what we have right now. Closing comments from the team then.
Hold on.
Yes?
Wait, how come the NHC aren't forecasting a major from post-tropical cyclone 9 potential? I mean,
Well, they've left the door open, haven't they, with that forecast?
yeah.
By the way, look at John on Visible. I mean, come on. No eye?
John's
Really?
going bang. John's exploding.
They said
I
it didn't
think that's
have an eye.
that's a very good closing comment.
Oh, goodness me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to say, when I saw John this morning and it was only a TS, like 8C, I said immediately that it was going to go boom. And what do you know? How's it done that?
To be fair, it was looking pretty clear at the moment. The moment the microwave pass came out, you just knew that this was gonna be a big problem.
I didn't even look at the microwave pass. I just looked at infrared imagery.
Oh, absolutely.
That's all I looked at, and it literally looked very similar to Otis.
Well, here's the rapid scan
not
imagery again, and we're going to leave this to play out now. John, National Hurricane Center gave it 70 miles per hour. We think it's stronger. It's probably a hurricane by this point. We're going to try and get our automated stream running as well. I mean, it's already at our end, but we can't get through to our web server, so it's all a bit messed up. I don't know if it's ever going to get working again, but we'll try. In the meantime, we might have some more video updates, but we will definitely be back with a live update. I expect it will be 7 PM Eastern Daylight Time, but check social media just to be sure. We'll be putting out some updates later today. Thanks to Jack, Soham, and Charlie when he was here earlier on as well. Didn't miss anyone out, did I?
Christian.
No. Oh, Christian, jeez. Yeah, Christian was also here to talk about this storm too. So, John, active, likely a hurricane, PTC 9, not named yet, but is expected from the National Hurricane Center to become a strong Category 2 and could be a major before it hits the Florida Bend region towards the end of the week. But from here at Force 13 HQ, we're back, and we'll be back again later tonight. Till then, we'll see you soon.